After Salvatore Maranzano's triumph in the Castellammarese War in 1931, he combined the 5 most powerful mafia factions in New York City into an organization known as the Five Families. Historically, New York City was the primary area of operation for the criminal families. Stay tuned for the 5 unknown facts about the 5 New York City crime families. Salvatore Maranzano was an early Cosa Nostra boss and American mafioso from the Sicilian town of Castellamare del Golfo. He was instrumental in the Castellammarese War, in which he defeated and deposed Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria, the boss of all bosses. His ally, Charles Lucky Luciano, who fought on his side during the fight with Masseria, turned on him afterwards, believing Maranzano to be even more ruthlessly ambitious than Masseria. Maranzano was assassinated by Luciano shortly after becoming the head of the mafia business, and Luciano then abolished the status of capo di tutti capi and redistributed power among the families of the mafia to prevent future turf battles. Now it's clear how it was formed. What about the entire scope of its operations? What did it really control? We'll tell you all that later in the video. After Maranzano's murder, his protege and eventual underboss, Joseph Bonanno, created the Bonanno criminal family and took over most of his rackets. Numerous works of crime fiction, films, and television series have made reference to Maranzano because of his notoriety in the public eye. Among the 5 families that control the culture mafia in New York City is the Luciano family, also known as the Genovese family or Cosa Nostra. The Luciano crime family is often referred to as the Ivy League or Rolls-Royce of the criminal underworld. They're second to only the Gambino family in terms of scale, and they're in the league of their own when it comes to power. They've kept some level of sway over the several minor crime groups outside of New York. We'd also like you to sway into subscribing to the channel, but that power doesn't lie in us. So we appeal to you to kindly subscribe and turn on the post notifications, to help us grow. The family was originally established in the 1930s after Charles Lucky Luciano, but was modified after Vito Genovese gained control in 1957. Only 5 members of the Genovese family have ever turned state's evidence, making them a unique real-life mobster. They've been able to avoid punishment and keep their grip on New York and the surrounding areas, thanks in large part to their adherence to Omerta, a code of silence regarding criminal behavior, and a refusal to offer evidence to the authorities. In reality, the families of the mafia didn't operate as they do in the movies, where they just enter a tiny business and request for a portion of the profits in exchange for security. They also dominated the city's unions and other influential groups. The mob controlled every industry, from sanitation to construction, and the decision makers in each. The mob naturally arranged things such that they would always go their way. Luciano might have been wanted, but did you know he was very useful to the army in times past? Luciano once assisted the U.S. Army during the all-too-popular World War II. We have all the details on that later in the video. Due to Anthony Provenzano's power and influence throughout the years, the Genovese crime family has completely corrupted several major local chapters of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. To be clear, Anthony Provenzano allowed his family to run the Teamsters Local 560 like it was their own mini-empire. The Italian-American Mafia's 5 crime groups are thriving in modern society. The 5 groups are still very much alive and well in New York City, where they continue to be the 5 most prominent Italian mafia families in the United States, rake in millions of dollars annually, and remain a primary focus of the FBI. The 2 most powerful families are the Genovese and the Gambino, with the Colombo being considered the weakest. The latest murder of Gambino family leader Frank Cali in front of his Staten Island house garnered the most media attention, yet the assailant was probably a disturbed young man, rather than a member of another criminal organization.
They're criminals!
There are 2 main explanations for the decline in culture mafia news coverage. Before anything else, the mafia is a shadow of its former self. The Italian mafia historically operated throughout the United States, but today, its territory is primarily in the Northeast. The number of people who qualify to enter the drawing is relatively small. Most Italians moved into the middle class in suburban white America in the second part of the 20th century, and the historic neighborhoods once controlled by the mafia no longer exist. Also, the remaining families of the mafia want to stay out of newsworthy incidents. In the 1980s and 1990s, law enforcement did irreparable harm to the mob. Because of increased surveillance and reliable informants, the days of stewing the streets with dead bodies are over. A successful criminal organization in the modern era must also adapt to new circumstances, white-collar crimes and high-tech schemes and frauds, as opposed to drug trafficking and traditional street crimes like extortion and robbery, are where the real money is at. The United States government had an undercover pact with the incarcerated Luciano during World War II.
Well, don't sound too surprised.
The Office of Naval Intelligence was worried in 1942 that German and Italian operatives were infiltrating the United States through the New York docks. Additionally, they were concerned about sabotage in these facilities. The U.S. Navy reached out to Lansky to negotiate a deal with Luciano because they knew the families of the Mafia controlled the waterfront. Luciano was moved from a maximum security prison in upstate New York to Great Meadow Correctional Facility in nearby Comstock in order to assist discussions. Why does the government hate organized crime? They don't like competition. In exchange for having his sentence commuted, the Navy, the state of New York, and Luciano came to an agreement in which Luciano would provide the full cooperation of his organization in gathering intelligence for the Navy. As Luciano's ally in charge of the docks, Anastasia purportedly guaranteed there would be no strikes by dock workers. Luciano allegedly supplied the United States military with contacts in the Sicilian Mafia in advance of the Allied invasion of Sicily in 1943. The name Operation Underworld was coined to describe the Navy and the Mafia's joint effort. The importance of Luciano's role in the war effort is hotly contested. This gets us to the story of the head of the Genovese family, Anthony Provenzano, and the alleged murder of Anthony Castellito, as well as the realization that the secret buzzer will almost likely cover any significant occurrence. Now, with that out of the way, here's a link to that video. Did Genovese boss Anthony Provenzano murder Anthony Castellito? We perform an in-depth investigation of his formidable capo regime within the Genovese crime family's New Jersey section. Thank you for watching.